Hi there. Right, quick update on virtual and real progress. Virtually, I've rebuilt the rear and front suspension. If you've from piston heads, you've probably read the threads. Done a couple of alterations to get the roll centre movement, so your theoretical roll centre movement left and right and up and down is pretty much dependent on suspension travel, but left and right is suspension design. I've got mine to move less than 4 or 5 mil now in 3 degrees roll and a bit of dive, so pretty much even if I set the car so it's really soft, no matter how much roll and dive, it should be predictable. Roll centre movement, the more you have, the more unpredictable the car becomes at different attitude levels, and make the car massively stiff, huge amounts of suspension spring rating, then the roll centres don't move because the car just doesn't roll, then it'll just slide if it's not very good. So perfect roll centres or near perfect roll centres get you a lot more predictable car with a lot softer suspension. So, and this is what I'm trying to do with, basically with rubberized joints to give me some compliance and actually some reasonably soft suspension travel, maybe allow the car to roll a little bit, but it should make it A, more compliant, B, quieter, and C, still handle better. Right, okay, alterations to the rear basically means that I've made this top wishbone slightly longer and I've moved this bar here in by 20 millimeters. Also altered the rear as well, also altered the bottom one as well, but the top one, as you can see from the suspension push rod, gets very close to this bar and very close to the wishbone. So on full droop it was getting rather close to here, which is a bit of a concern. Where I mount the push rod, if you can see here, this will be the centre of the wheel. Roughly you can see it's to the centre of the pencil line. That's the axis I've marked up on the base. Having the wishbone support at the back and having, well, you can see it's not drilled, but it's having the tie rod for toe adjustment at the front. So there's 2 mounting points at the top, 1 at the bottom. Having this one at the front here basically has pulled this angle, pulled the angle of this wishbone back slightly. We had to space this here because this angle was really too small. It had to be made bigger to make the wishbone basically stronger. But what it ended up doing is the push rod gets very close now, so the push rod has to sit adjacent to the drive shaft, so we have to have some offset there. Can't put it to the other side because later through the drive shaft it has to be on this side somewhere. We were a limiting factor getting close here. I did actually manage to get all the 100 millimeters of travel, but I wasn't happy with it. It was really close. It took a bit of adjusting to get there, and it's nicer to be able to play safe a little. What we've done is we've got the top wishbone now. Now we've moved it further in. Technically these are now not as straight, they're angling in slightly because we've got a bit of longer distance. So what we've done is just took the top wishbone in the virtual world and swapped it upside down. So now instead of mounting off the back point on the upright, it now mounts here. So technically this trailing arm that's here, or this wishbone point is there, now goes to here. So it's a little straighter. So we've managed to remove this, all bar 10 mil of it, and push it further over. So now my wishbone is clear of the push rod. Being clear of the push rod means I can mount this slightly higher, lift this up slightly on the upright where it sits in the upright, which now gives us more clearance on here. Plus the fact that this bar is actually further in anyway, so we've got a lot more clearance on the push rod. Well, previously on the push rod I had to run here on the rocker box, 2 selectable positions, but I had to run here, which is nice because it gives us a 1-to-1 ratio of shock travel to wheel travel, but I was saving that, or was hoping to have like a track position and a road position. So basically we can drive to the track, jack the back of the car up, swap the bolt position over, so you go from a softer spring rating to a harder spring rating pretty much just a 1 bolt removal. So now change the spring, yes, you have to change the bump and rebound, I'm not quite sure how much yet, but you just better swap the bolt out. Well, previously I couldn't use the outer one because these were getting all too close. Now I can. So now I can have that there. Now that gives us, for 1 inch wheel movement travel, we get 3/4 of an inch travel on the spring. So basically I can go to the track and raise the spring rate from 750 pounds to 1,000 pounds, boom, at just a change of a bolt. I'm looking into, a lot of people have asked, why don't I go inboard on the front? Well, it was time we designed the chassis, inboard rear made sense because of the way we wanted to do a front and rear eagle plate and brace between the two, and just basically remove the chassis from the thing. And now the chassis is just basically all of these bones here. But we didn't do the front because it was just going to be more complicated, and at this point I wasn't overly sure that I wanted to. The Stealth way of doing, and Stealth or Pro Sport front suspension, did like a pyramid rocker on the wishbone. Problem is that puts all the suspension load on the front through the rubber joints, on the rear, also on the lower bone, which basically meant you couldn't have the rubber joints. They would probably just distort too much. So we'd have to go spherical rod ends, which I didn't want to do because I wanted a car with more compliance that basically would be a better road car, less of a bone shaker. So we didn't bother. So now it looks like I might end up with another style rocker on the front, courtesy of the nice idea from the American gentleman. I think it's James, his name, can't remember his name. Another guy on the forum. Very good idea about mounting the rocker just on the inside of the main 38mm chassis rail. So I'm toying with that at the moment and seeing see if we can get the same kind of increase on a rocker on the front. So 2 positions, and we can add what's probably a third more spring rate just by flipping a couple of bolts. So you've got a road and track setting. That's the idea. So we've managed to get a lot better roll center control on the rear and the front. We've redesigned both ends. We've managed to gain here, so I've actually now got my 2 positions on the rocker. I've got a lot more clearance on the push rod. So basically I've got a bit of a win-win scenario. Unfortunately, what it does mean is that eagle plate and this eagle plate are no longer very good because all the points are different. Obviously I'm going to have to change all of this as well. The only thing I'll keep here is probably you can see on the top, there's a bar between the 2 rockers, the bars that go to the front, the bars that go to the rear. Those will be kept, distances will be kept to the same, but effectively everything below that will have to be chopped because all the suspension points will be moved. These bars here will be okay because the same width, but effectively those are going to be chopped, moved and then re-welded. Front and rear plates gone as well. Due to the daily sump, or daily motorsport I think they're called, now the engine is no longer the limiting factor for height. So, which it always was before. Where it is set up at the moment, the height we are at present, an LS7 still sits 1 inch below my projected floor. So I didn't like that. I wanted to put an ARE sump on. Yes, they do a reduced one, but it doesn't reduce it quite as much. I wasn't quite sure about throwing away the LS7 dry sump system just to fit another one. But speaking to Daly and a few other people, the LS7 dry sump system isn't the best, and a gentleman in Calgary happened to wreck his LS7 motor by driving around the local race course all day, and actually he starved the main bearings and it spun the motor. So I'm quite happy now to throw away the original GM dry sump system and fit a Daily Motorsport version. What it does mean is now the gearbox is a limiting factor for height, not the engine. So as you can see here, we've got, I think it's about 30mm or thereabouts between where the gearbox would be and the floor. So I can actually drop the engine now down, because I'm having to redo this plate for the suspension. I can now drop this down more, which is, I've gone from maybe having to lift the engine up an inch, which I didn't want to do, to actually dropping it down, which, yeah, again is another double bonus. It's just $3,200 on a sump system, but hey ho. So now I can drop the engine down probably about a half an inch from here, just to be a little bit clearance. I still want the plate to be the thing that if anything gets hit, it'll be this. And now I can brace the front of the plate with a skid pan and basically come under the engine forward with some form of an aluminum skid pan. So if something does get hit, it'll just slide along. What you're saying, yeah, by dropping this down half an inch or 3/4 an inch, I'm still probably going to have some in the region of 3/4 an inch clearance for the engine sump to a flat floor. So that's great. I said literally can put a protective sort of 2mm aluminum skim underneath the motor forward. I'll just brace it with some 3/4 box. And if for whatever reason we do go over something, it'll just skid along it. It'll probably wreck that, but it doesn't wreck the engine gearbox. I don't give a monkeys. You know, $100 to replace that, or engine and gearbox, not good. And the bell housing of the gearbox is kind of a weak point. If that gets hit and shattered, then you're goose. The gearbox is pretty much scrapped because Porsche don't sell you one. So that's the updates on the rear. So gains are, got my 2-position rocker. Gains I've got more clearance here. Gains I've going to get rid of this, which I didn't really like, but it made the thing at the time. And we've lowered the C of G. So lower C of G, excellent. Better roll center control, also excellent. So, well, that's the update on the rear. Let's start hacking away soon. Okay, there you go.